All right, today I want to talk about why I left Arch. So, I have been using Arch primarily for about 3-ish years, kind of off and on. When I started my Linux journey, I think I started with Mint and then went through a bunch of different distros. And then I believe I went to some Fedora-based distros. And then after that, I went to some Arch-based distros, more around gaming and stuff. Arch typically is better for gaming. So once I got into gaming, I started getting more into Arch. And that's kind of just where I landed and where I stayed for a while. Basically, what I want to go over today is why I ended up switching from Arch and I ended up switching to NixOS, and kind of just give you an idea why I left and the things that I like more about NixOS. I'm not saying that NixOS is the end all be all and that it's for everybody, but for me, my use case and the things that I like to get done on my system, it just has been a better overall experience. I did have my fair amount of issues, I will say. There's a few times where I had to kind of start over, essentially, roll back my system and get everything back to working. But now that I have it, everything set up exactly the way I want it. Obviously, there's always room to grow and changes to be made. But for the most part, I have a stable system that I can use going forward. And if you saw my previous video, I did make my own dot files on NixOS. I will have those available soon. I'm still working on some things to get like the install script and stuff working the way I want it to. So stay tuned for that. So subscribe if you want to be able to find out when that is available. But yeah, so basically the reasons why I left Arch was, one, the issues with that whole DDoS attack that they were having. It made it difficult not being able to, access the wiki and the AUR. And I guess that kind of leads to my next piece is the AUR. Although it is like one of the main things and the main reasons why people like Arch is the AUR, it kind of became one of my biggest pain points, because even when it didn't have issues with the attack, that I was still getting issues with different packages and either not compiling fully, or just issues with that package itself, or having too many options of the same package. So not knowing like which one is more stable and which one works better. It's kind of a guessing game in that sense, trying to get packages and stuff to run the way you wanted to. But yeah, so basically I just had issues all around kind of with the AUR and how that worked. I tried using the chaotic AUR to have more stability of the packages and just like a wider range when just using like Pacman and not having to use the AUR or any AUR helper. But it just wasn't the end all be all for what I was trying to get to. And then with the whole attack, that's kind of what like really made me start looking for a different distribution, because trying to install like new dot files or trying to install something and it required dependencies or packages from the AUR, it would fail, or it would try to complete, but since it never reached the AUR portion of it, you were missing a lot of pieces that you needed. So you kind of had a broken system at that point. And then so the other piece of that is just like kind of rolling into that, too many dependencies for different things, and there's a lot of different options for those dependencies. So sometimes like a bin package or the standard package or like a wrapped app image package. So there's just so many different packages that you kind of had to choose from to get things to work. And overall, I still think it's a great distro when it comes to having the latest and greatest and having the best gaming experience with the latest drivers and everything. So I'm not saying that NixOS is the best for gaming. I have been able to game on NixOS, but I think the overall gaming experience is probably still better on Arch just because of the later packages. Because even if you go unstable on NixOS, you still don't have the latest drivers and everything. So that's not the reason to be on here. It's more of the stability portion of it. And then so the other piece of it was big updates. So a lot of big updates that I had on Arch. I always had some type of breakage. It wasn't super consistent, but it was every 5-6 months-ish. I had like a big update. There was this one time I had where I was getting like 300 different packages needed to be updated like daily. And just the simple need to want to update frequently as an Arch user. I know you don't have to, but it was just like a frequent want or need to update all the time. So I hated seeing, packages being available to be updated. And so I just would update all the time. And it ran into some breakage, especially when newer packages just weren't compatible with older ones or whatever the issue might have been. Just having those issues just had an impact on the overall experience that I was having. And then the other reason, because of those breakages, really the only main way to roll back your system was snapshots. If you had Btrfs as your file management, so that was really the only way to kind of get out of that. I mean, you could obviously save like your dot files and keep those like in a repo or whatever. There are other ways of getting around that, but the main source to kind of get you back to where you were before the breakage happened was through, snapshots. So those are kind of the reasons why I even started looking and trying to, the reasons I wanted to get away from it. And that's where I landed on Nix. So right now I'm actually on my own dot files right here. So as you can see, it shows Black Dawn's OS, and it's on NixOS 2505. And I'm running Hyperland on here and still running like a lot of the same configuration that I was running on previous ones, but I don't have my dock currently, only because I just haven't messed with trying to get that set up yet, but I definitely will have that dock available here soon. And I'm still running on the NVIDIA card as well on my Lenovo desktop, and I have my Lenovo laptop that also has NVIDIA graphics. So all of that is still the same as far as my hardware, but I am obviously now on NixOS. And I'd say the main reason why I like NixOS over Arch is because of the stability, and not even just the stability, but the fact that I can have things stable where I need it stable, and then have more up-to-date packages where I need it updated. So if I go into my packages Nix file here, you can see all the packages that I have installed. I'll get into package management here in a second, but you can see I have some of these packages that are unstable. And some of these are for like development reasons or gaming reasons, but it's nice to be able to have majority of your system on a stable branch and then have some packages that are unstable, instead of kind of having, most of your packages on a stable branch and then having some of them that are on the unstable package, having the latest available package on the next system. It's just a nice thing to have. I know some people don't like to mix their unstable versus stable packages, but I think it's a nice thing to be able to have that flexibility to have different packages on different stability levels. That's definitely one of the reasons. I do think the package management system is great. I love that in order to install a new package, you just add it to your environment.system packages here. So basically all you would do is add a new line and type in the package name. And then once you type in the package name, save it, and then rebuild your system. And then there you have the package. So you don't have to really do anything as far as, rebuild is in the terminal, but you don't really have to like search for packages in the terminal. The way you would search for packages is I actually added a web app for the package manager, which has a ton of packages available in here. So if you wanted a package, for instance, I downloaded YouTube Music there. So I would just type in YouTube Music and then hit enter. And then you see here, YouTube Music is here at the top. When you click on it, it gives you different options to install it. You can do it through the Nix shell or the NixInv. But if you have, NixOS, it's probably best to just put it in your configuration where I said like the environment system packages are. And so you would just copy this and then put it in there. So you just copy the name. You actually don't need this if you're already defining it up here. You don't have to put that in the front. But so if you just wanted to add this, you would just copy this and then put it into your actual, configuration here. So I've actually already added that right here. So that's not going to change anything, but it's just nice. I think it's just a nice system, which the way it's done. And I like being able to just come in here and see all of the apps that I do have installed, and I can kind of like separate them, with comments and stuff as far as what packages are doing what and kind of group them. It's not in the best order right now. They're kind of just in there, and I have some random comments in there, but overall I just like the way this is. And you don't see a bunch of the dependencies in here. These are mainly the actual packages themselves. Some of them, if I installed a dependency myself to get something to work, you'll see in here, but overall you don't see them in here, which is nice. You just see all of your main packages right here, and it's just nice to have in one spot. So yeah, definitely package system, package management. I actually tried to do the Nix packages on Arch when I was kind of having the feelings towards the AUR. I wanted to stay on Arch, but then replace all my packages with Nix packages. And that didn't really work out exactly the way I wanted to. I had issues with some dependencies and I think some NVIDIA issues with it not recognizing my NVIDIA card for those packages I installed through Nix. Definitely have my share of issues there. So I was like, all right, let me just try NixOS itself. And here we are. So the other part that I really like is the reproducibility. So I was able to first install this on my laptop. That's where I was kind of like testing things out on. And then, once I got things to where I wanted it, I was using NixOS at the time before I forked it. And then I installed it also onto my gaming laptop, which is the one I'm on right here, which is the Lenovo with the NVIDIA 4070. So once I installed that, I did run into some issues there because I was using NixOS and I didn't add the host and everything correctly in the way it was set up in NixOS. I messed things up. That's kind of where the road led me to creating my own and forking it. So now I kind of have everything set up exactly the way I want it. And as you can see, I have the host. And so I have my Nix desktop, which is the one you see here that I'm on. And I have different variables for that. And then I have my laptop that you can see here. And then I have different variables for that. So like, for instance, I can, change the default browser for one of the laptops, or, obviously change like the monitor setup. So I have different monitor setups for both of them, but everything else as far as like the packages and everything are all the same. So I don't have to reinstall anything. Everything is exactly the way I set it up. It's great for development environments because I use Flutter and Dart for development, and it's easy to set that up because I had to set it up once, and then I just had to redo my path for Chrome browser, and I think reset up the Android Studio, and then that was it. Like I had the full Flutter environment installed on my system when I went to my desktop here. So it was just really nice to have that ability to get set up quickly, because a lot of times when I change systems or get new devices or whatever, it's like a whole day, if not a week, before I have things exactly the way I want it, theming wise and like packages and everything. And also I'm not going to forget any packages because it's all just in this list. Like I can literally just install it and boom, like it's there. There's nothing that I'm going to be missing or not. No, I can just add another host, install it on a new computer, set up the variables, and then I'm good to go. So I love that, being able to reproduce it, put it on different hardware, because I'm actually going to be putting this on an older computer that I got, because I'm going to kind of self-host my photo library for me and my wife, and make that an easy process to be able to add another device, a desktop, onto my system. And I think that's just a great way to do it. The other thing that I like is that everything is in a configuration file, and it's based on the Nix language. It doesn't have to be, so you don't have to do it this way. There are ways of doing it differently, but for instance, with this setup, like I have the home and all of these packages are in the Nix language, even the Hyperland packages. So as you can see, like the syntax is a little bit different than you would see in a normal Hyperland configuration file, but overall it's pretty much, the same. That there's some just slight differences when typing things out, but for the most part, it's very similar. But I just like that everything is in configuration file, from your variables to your hardware to your actual system. And then everything that I have is on the Flake system. So I have everything defined in here as far as the different systems and hosts and everything. So I really think it's just a really nice system overall. And then one of the biggest things that I really like about NixOS is the generations. It creates a new generation every time you build your system. So whenever I go and do a rebuild, I have my own CLI that I kind of stole from NixOS, and I have ZCLI to do rebuilds, but I made mine to be DCLI for Dawn, so I can do a DCLI rebuild. And then I don't think I have anything to actually rebuild. Well, I hope I type my password in right. Yeah, so I don't really have much to rebuild there. So I just rebuilt the system, and then, boom, everything is done. So if I did have a new package that I added in at that time, it would install it and get everything set up for it. And then the rebuild would be, finished. But every time you do that, it creates another generation in your system. So when I reboot my computer, I have the option, just like in ButterFS, to go to that version. And then you can also use, if I do list gens, this will show all of the different generations that are in there, and then you can actually delete them if you want to, or switch to one of these generations. So it's really a nice way to be able to go back if you mess something up, so I could really just try things and then, just have the peace of mind that I can go back if I need to. So yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. I know that was a little bit long-winded, but if you stuck it out and made it to the end here, I appreciate you. But yeah, so if you have been liking my content, please consider, liking and subscribing to this video or to my channel. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.